Good evening, everybody. This is Sweet Jeff 2024, and this is episode 6 of Behind the Card. And tonight's subject is going to be Joe Cribbs of the Buffalo Bills and San Francisco 49ers, Indianapolis Colts, Miami Dolphins, and the USFL Birmingham Stallions. So let's talk about Mr. Cribbs, shall we? So I'm going to his Wikipedia page here, and this says that Cribbs was an immediate success, playing for the NFL team which drafted him, the Buffalo Bills. And he was named the AFC Rookie of the Year for the 1980 season. And as a starter in the Pro Bowl on September 7th of 1980, Cribbs contributed 131 combined yards of offense as the Bills would snap a 20-game losing streak versus the Dolphins, winning in a 17-7 final. He also played very well in each of the 2 subsequent seasons, including this one, and was named to the Pro Bowl again following each. When the NFL played an abbreviated 9-game schedule due to the strike-shortened season in 1982, Cribbs was only able to play in 7 games, but nonetheless led the league with 90.4 rushing yards per game. He was not exactly happy in Buffalo, however, as he especially disliked playing in their infamous cold weather home games. With 1 year left on his contract with the Bills, Cribbs signed a contract with the Birmingham Stallions of the USFL. In the summer of 1983, Cribbs officially inked a contract with Birmingham worth $3.5 million. However, the Bills challenged the contract, citing that they had first right of refusal. This clause had been in Cribbs' original contract with the Buffalo Bills. This was placed in the contract in order to prevent Buffalo, in case there was no collective bargaining agreement, and to prevent another NFL team from signing Cribbs in that event. However, obviously there was no mention of a prohibition of any team from the USFL signing Cribbs, as that league was yet to be formed when Cribbs signed his contract with the Bills. The trial was held in Buffalo, and one of the people testifying for the Bills was head coach Kay Stevenson, who stated that Joe Cribbs was irreplaceable in the Bills lineup. Federal Judge John T. Elfvin heard the case. While the trial was going on, Cribbs continued to work out with the Stallions. When the verdict came down, Judge Elfvin ruled in favor of Cribbs, allowing him to play for the Birmingham Stallions. Herschel Walker made the jump from college football to the USFL, becoming the league's highest paid player at $6 million over 4 years. This played a factor in Joe Cribbs walking out of his contract with the Birmingham Stallions. Cribbs had signed a deal in 1983 worth $2.6 million to play for Birmingham, and still 5 years left on the contract. At the time of his walkout, Cribbs was leading the USFL in rushing. Cribbs was a fairly major star with the Stallions. However, the USFL folded after its 1985 season, and Cribbs then returned to play in the NFL. Cribbs played for the San Francisco 49ers in the 1986 and 1987 seasons. He then divided the 1988 season between the Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins prior to his retirement. During his return stint in the NFL, Cribbs never came truly close to the level of consistency, which had put him into 3 consecutive Pro Bowls early in the decade. Now, I'm going to look here at the 1980 Buffalo Bills season. And when I think most people associate the Buffalo Bills' successful years, they tend to go back to the early 70s and mid-70s with O.J. Simpson, or more likely the early 90s with the Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, and Andre Reed, Bruce Smith, etc. Marv Levy led Buffalo Bills of that era. However, I think that some people forget that the Buffalo Bills did have some success in the early 80s when Chuck Knox was their head coach. So Cribbs' first season, they finished 11-5. That was the best record. It was tied for best in the AFC. And Joe Cribbs was one of the Pro Bowlers. And they lost the divisional playoff to the San Diego Chargers 20-14. 1981, this is the year that I'm playing in APA football, they finished 10-6. and they finished third in the AFC East. They won the wild card playoff against the New York Jets. They beat the Jets 31-27, and then they lost the divisional playoffs to the Bengals. They lost 28-21, and of course Cincinnati would go on to play in the Super Bowl that year. Again, Joe Cribbs made the Pro Bowl. 1982, they finished 4-5, and that was because of the strike, and Cribbs was not a Pro Bowler then. And then in 1983, they finished 8-8. Cribbs did make the Pro Bowl then, and then we go to 1984, and I don't see his name listed. That was actually the year that they went to their red helmets, 1984. And the Bills finished 2-14. And they finished 2-14 the next year, and that's when they went into decline for a few years before finally rising up again in the late 80s, early 90s. Cribbs is one of those guys, though. Let's get Cribbs's card to look here. And he's ranked a 4. And he was one of those guys that I remember as a kid. I remember seeing his football card and seeing him on TV, and he was a very good player, but somebody that I think gets overlooked. And I wanted to give him the spotlight tonight and just kind of talk about his career a little bit here. And let me just go up to his statistics here. So in the NFL, he played a total of 102 games, started 71. He had a total of 5,356 rushing yards, which is 4.1 yards average, 27 touchdowns, and he averaged 52.5 yards per game, and his longest run was 62 yards. In addition, he also had 2,199 yards receiving, 224 receptions, and 65 yards was his longest reception, and 15 touchdowns. So Cribbs had a pretty good career. It wasn't, I guess, a Hall of Fame career, but he was a solid player. And if he had not went to the USFL and had that league never existed, who knows what would have happened. I will tell you a funny story, though, or maybe it's not a funny story, but it could be a mildly amusing story. But when the USFL first launched, I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I did not like it because I thought that they were poaching a lot of talent from the NFL. And I was like, I don't like this league. They're taking all the good players away. And anyway, who's going to watch a football league in the spring? Who's going to watch a springtime football league? That's when baseball starts. And yet I ended up watching the New Jersey Generals playing the Los Angeles Express, and they started in March of '83. Herschel Walker, Steve Young was on that Express team, and I liked it. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Dare I say it, I think that the USFL was more interesting than the NFL. Certainly their championship games. I mean, the NFL had the Redskins-Raiders Super Bowl, which was an absolute blowout. But the USFL had the Michigan Panthers and the Philadelphia Stars, and that was a close game. It was fun. It was played, I think, in July. Well, why not just look it up, shall we? Let's just look up when that championship was. Let's see. 1983. Yes, it was July 17th, 1983, at Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado, and the Michigan Panthers defeated the Philadelphia Stars 24-22. Fun fact, Bobby Hebert, former NFL quarterback, was the quarterback of the Michigan Panthers. So maybe we'll do a video on the USFL someday, my comments here. But anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this video and the other ones that I've done here. And please leave your comments, suggestions, questions, answers, feedback, etc. Hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Hope you have a great rest of your week. I'll see you soon.